Said, we're here to focus on the Asian American consumer. Asian Americans are the fastest growing U.S. multicultural segment with significant purchasing power. There are several adjectives here that are commonly used to describe Asian Americans, and this has proven true with our research: well educated, geographically concentrated, and technologically savvy. Asian American buying power continues to increase and is projected to reach $1 trillion by 2017. I was actually really amazed by that statistic, $1 trillion by 2017. Nielsen issued a report called The State of the Asian American Consumer at the end of last year. And that report revealed that Asian American purchasing behaviors and viewing patterns are different and unique from that of the total American population. I think there's a copy of that report that's out there for those of you that want to look at it, and I think we also sent the report out to many of you at the end of last year. Smartphone penetration, for example, penetration numbers for smartphones are higher amongst Asian Americans than the general US population. So that report is filled with other statistics, really that focus on the uniqueness of the Asian American population. I'd like to introduce Chris Louie. Chris is our Vice President of Product Marketing. He's going to moderate the panel today. And I hope you gain valuable insights from this panel as to how you approach the Asian American consumer, both now and in the years ahead. So Chris, why don't you join us? And Chris is going to introduce the panel.
Thanks, Linda. Right, and we do have a star-studded crew up here, minus me. I'm sort of the anchor. So I will give a very brief introduction, and then I think these folks can talk about a little bit more of what they do in the course of the responses to the questions. To my immediate left is Bill Amata, founder, chairman, and chief collaboration officer of the IW Group, which assists companies, government agencies, foundations, and nonprofits in helping them reach multicultural groups. Then we have Michael Strachan.
Oops. I knew he was going to say that.
Oops. Almost a Strahan, but he has a C in his name.
But it's Mark.
That's right.
He called me Michael. But Michael is my long-lost brother.
There you go.
I get no tickets from him.
Right. VP of Multicultural Marketing for Diageo North America. Alice Liu, National Asian Segment Manager of Multicultural Marketing for Nielsen.
For Verizon.
And then, I'm sorry, for Verizon.
Verizon Wireless.
And then Karthik Rao, who what do you do again?
I don't know. I work in Nielsen.
He runs our media analytics group at Nielsen. And so just to open up the discussion, I actually struggle in thinking about the Asian American opportunity because when I was growing up, I identified myself as being Chinese. I identified myself as being third generation. But I only really identified myself as being Asian American, frankly, when I was filling out a form, right, on some kind of standardized test, and I checked the box on Asian American. First question I have for you guys that I'm curious about is, when you or when your companies think about Asian Americans, what do you actually think about? How do you define that? Because there are so many different ways to slice and dice that. I'll open it up to whoever wants to take that question first.
I can take that question.
Yeah.
The way we do marketing at Verizon Wireless is we use very targeted approach. So especially in my job, I focus on segmentation. The way we strategize segmentation is really looking to the Asian American, what do they made up of? We're looking to the language component, cultural, and the way they use media content. So we're really focusing on those who really requires the language support because those are the larger population. Then of course we have extension using our general market strategy to touch on those who are considered as the second generation or third generation. So that's how we do it right now. But there's a lot of talk. I just had a conversation with Bill that some companies going down the direction of total market, but that's not where we currently doing at Verizon.
So we are at the total market horizon. And we got there specifically because we began to realize for us, it was where is the sweet spot of the best opportunity? So, like my colleagues here, but I'll speak specifically for Diageo, I am in the business of moving cases. I am in the business of driving shareholder value. I am in the business of seeking market share. And I want to find the best consumer opportunity to reach those goals and to achieve that year in and year out. This particular community, made up of a vast diaspora of individuals, cultures, languages, etc., from a variety of countries, is a significant consumer opportunity that consumes our brands, enjoys them on a variety of occasions, and we would be fools not to invite them to our party. So when we look at all the traditional insights, segmentation, et cetera, when you look at size of prize, the Asian consumer market, despite what area you might go after, and we'll talk about that later on, as a particular segment or segments, is a huge business imperative for us.
Bill, do you have anything to add to that?
I think they answered it really well.
Yeah. And Karthik, Linda spoke before about the report that we put together toward the end of last year. Given, as Mark said, the diaspora, right, that Asian American encompasses, I wonder if, from your perspective, there are any challenges in thinking about how to measure, analyze, kind of characterize that group, even relative to other, other ethnic groups that you might think about.
Yeah, I think from a Nielsen perspective, we're about measuring the consumer, and so coverage is an important component of our philosophy. So the net has to be as wide and broad as possible. That's the starting point. That gives us leverage to then slice and dice in many ways that marketers would capitalize on that. So that's the way I think about it. Is just because widest net enables you to then hone in on the specific opportunities over time. So that's where we begin.
Yeah, got it. Bill, interested. So you work with a lot of different types of groups in trying to reach many different multicultural groups, Asian Americans specifically. Can you talk about some of the opportunities that you've uncovered with by working with those groups to really sort of unlock that potential that Mark was just speaking about?
Well, absolutely. I think it's shocking with such an important segment as Asian Americans, how few Fortune 500 companies are targeting us as consumers. And I look at some specific industries that are really missing. For instance, the automotive industry. Toyota's involved, General Motors is involved to a certain extent, but if you look at companies like BMW, you don't really see them that actively involved in advertising or marketing or public relations. You see Mercedes a little bit involved. But when you look at the numbers, you're just shocked at how few are involved. Asian Americans, we're 6% of the US population, yet we constitute 30% of all minority car sales. And we're not just buying used cars, we're buying new cars. I was really happy to see Mark and Alice on the panel because Alice is here because Verizon is doing such a great job in the marketplace. Part of the reason why they're doing so well is Asian Americans tend to index higher in terms of new gadgets, having smartphones, and as you heard earlier from the Nielsen representative, 75% of our population already use smartphones. 75% or more of our population are buying things online. And Mark, he's here, and I know he's going to talk a little bit about total market, but drinking, gaming, resorts, they all go hand in hand, and it's also shocking that there aren't more beverage companies involved in this space. So we're seeing a lot of companies that are sitting on the sideline. They're spending a lot more time on African American, Latino, or even the LGBT market, but they're kind of passing us by because they don't necessarily see that opportunity. But I think people like Verizon, just as an example, see that opportunity, and they look at it as a secret. Why do we have to let anybody else in? If they don't want to get involved, that's fine with us. We'll continue to market to these communities.
Okay, so Mark, why don't you let us in on the secret? So how has Diageo really been able to go after that kind of total market opportunity? Why have you seen the opportunity and known that it was there to go after around Asian Americans? And then tell us about kind of the story of what you did.
We had a great opportunity about 5 years ago when the market went down. It's a great opportunity when business goes south. Because what does that mean? It means that you usually have to then begin to learn very, very quickly and work very, very hard how to repair. Because what happens? When the business goes south, bankers come a-calling. Shareholders go a-running. And before you know it, competitors start knocking on your door. We're in the premium segment of the business. Most of our brands are very highly, highly premiumized. And we began to see that as the consumer base shifted and changes. And somebody said, you know what? Market went down. I only got $5 in my pocket now. Do I want to buy that $10 bottle of scotch? Or do I want to buy that $40 bottle of scotch? You know what? I'll buy that $10 bottle of scotch and I'll make it last 6 months. All right, as opposed to the $40 I used to spend every weekend. Consumerism changed. And as a result, we had to begin to mine better opportunities. And it became a vast opportunity where my job, my role then became critically important as a transformational priority for the organization. How are we going to continue to find and recruit new consumers? We went down the traditional road. So we have segmentations on each one: African Americans, Hispanics, LGBT, and Asians. And we did full-blown segmentations on each one, full-blown knowledge and insight studies on each one, and full-blown market share studies on each one, where we commanded folks out in the field. We really, really invested boatloads of money to understand the consumer. And the insights that came out of it were mind-boggling. First of all, it's marketing 101, folks. Anybody in this room come from the moon? Well, you do. You come from the moon, sweetie? What day did you land? There you go. I mean, anybody here from Venus, planet Pluto? Pluto's no longer a planet. Saturn? No. We live on Earth. Right now, we're in the United States of America, one of the most capitalistic societies in the world. How many people in here have Chinese money in their pocket? One person. Anybody got some Taiwanese money in their pocket? All right, 2 people. All right, most of you got what? Good old American greenbacks, right? What's the color of your money? You're going to have to speak a little louder. What is the color of your money? Thank you very much. Your green is just as green as the Caucasian gentleman's green, just as green as the African American gentleman's green, just as green as the LGBT community's green, and I want my fair share of it. As a result, we worked very, very hard to get a good understanding of the engagement dynamics and how it was best that we would get you to invite us into your world, not force you to choose our world. How do we best become a part of your life where you choose Diageo brands, where you choose Johnny Walker Blue or Captain Morgan or Ciroc or Kettle One or Guinness versus the other competitors? You have choices. As smart, educated consumers, we had to find ways to bridge the gap. And that's what our efforts are doing, all right? It's not just about changing advertising. It's not just about translation, right? Anybody can translate. How do I find ways to integrate myself and become part of your world so that you choose me when you make those wonderful lifestyle choices? Because you have choices. And I do not sell spirits. I don't sell beer. I don't sell wine. I don't sell alcohol. I sell lifestyle occasions. I sell lifestyle accessories. I want you to choose me like you choose a watch. I want you to choose me like you choose your BMW. And in order to do that, I have to understand you and get to really a point where you feel that I am a part of your world. That takes work. So it took us 3 years to get it right, to really begin to understand the diaspora, the cultural nuances, the dynamics, and the opportunity. And you know what? One brand doesn't fit all. Language is not the only answer. True consumer marketing and true consumer understanding. The same principles that we would apply, this is why I say total market, to that thing somebody calls the general market, it doesn't exist anymore. Don't use the term general market anymore, please, people. What does general market mean? Bill and I went through this for years. It's a euphemism for white men. That's what general market means to most people in the C-suites of Fortune 500. Don't say it. The total market is everybody. You want the best total to drive your phone sales and your wireless sales and your side order sales. You want the best total to come forth to purchase your cars, to be a part of your lifestyle construction. That is where the marketplace is. And if you don't come, if you're at Diageo and you come to a senior brand management meeting and you don't have a good, solid multicultural plan and you don't have a total market plan, you were in for a bad meeting.
So Mark, what are the 2 to 3 kind of big things, thinking about the Asian American community, right? That part of the market that Diageo did coming out of that study that you'd want to relate to the group here, and then I want to ask Alice of this
Great.
as well about
All
what
right.
you learned with the
I'll do this
Verizon
real
study.
fast because
Yeah.
I could talk for a long time on this stuff. All right, I'll talk about an outstanding brand called Johnnie Walker and one of the variants called Johnnie Walker Blue. Johnnie Walker Blue Label is one of the best blended Scotch whiskeys in the world. Sells for somewhere about $250 a bottle. We had a challenge from our president to increase sales by 50%. The brand team found themselves extremely challenged, not knowing where that 50% was coming from. Through our Asian A&U studies, we understood the aspect of how whiskey played an important role in the lifestyle of Chinese, Koreans, and Indians, particularly for gifting. And we went out and we got our agency and we created an entire Johnnie Walker Blue gifting program that mirrored our total market gifting program, but specifically went after the accounts where nobody was knocking on their doors. And we also were finding that there was business coming out of certain places we couldn't track. We was like, wait a minute, 15 cases of Blue, who's buying that? All right? And it was those Chinese and Koreans, but nobody was talking about the gifting program. So the gifting program allows Bill to buy a wonderful bottle of Blue and have it Gold Boss engraved in the name of his father, or in the name of his brother, or the name of his sister for special occasions. All right? So without going through a whole lot of stuff, but I do want to read one thing specific so that I make sure I got my right numbers here, if you bear with me. All right? Hold on. All right, here we go. So the assignment was to deliver a 60% increase in sales versus the prior year in all the test retailers, and a 40% increase in sales for the specific Asian retailers in the marketplace where we tested. Full-blown 360, all right? People in the stores, Chinese and Korean folks doing the engraving, working with the retailers, newspaper, the whole 360, all right? Here's what the return was. And this is the numbers that you really want, okay? Retailer return program, 391%. All the non-retailers that carried Blue that were in Asian markets that didn't have the test increased 189%. And the total Asian case sales, 212% increase versus the prior year. Ladies and gentlemen, drive cases make me money. You show your corporation how you can move sales, the money will follow. Very easily. It's not about winning awards. We didn't try to win Clios. We weren't trying to win Addies. Move cases. The results speak for themselves. And it was a surprise to our brand team and our sales folks. And it then refocused their efforts that these consumers and these stores were critical if we're going to survive and continue our market share.
Cool. Thanks for that. Alice, can you tell us about, I know you have a story about Verizon and what you've done with Verizon that I think might be pretty similar to this story.
Okay, yeah. We just finished launching a Little New Year campaign to celebrate the Year of the Horse. Like I mentioned, cultural relevancy is an angle that we use as a passion point, speaking with the Asians, including like the Chinese, Koreans, and Vietnamese who celebrate a holiday. So, and this year we actually tried something a little different. We partnered with the Jubilee Project. I don't know if any of you know that group. They are a nonprofit. They do a lot of heartwarming, cause-oriented campaigns, videos. So we partnered with them and developed a short videos about the holiday. The video also featured some of the leading Asian American YouTube talents who have strong followers in the Asian American millennial space. It was quite intriguing to went through that experience with them. Not only we did a video, but at the same time, because it is a time about giving. So internally, we worked with the Verizon Hopeline program to make this video campaign to something more relevant to the consumers. So we tied that to a donation program, which was like a $1 donation for every like to the video on YouTube. So, and a donation went to the community. The organization we contributed to was the Asian American Advancing Justice. They are a leading Asian American organization, advocates for equality. So we kind of bridge that marketing and the cause, the community all together into a bigger campaign. You know, besides the video itself, we also had a integrated marketing campaign behind it to support all the efforts. We used the traditional media, including the in-language TV spots. We had print ad running in the Asian papers, radio on the Asian radio channels, stations. We also had a digital media strategy to support the campaign using in-language and English online digital ads. Plus, there was a digital platform where we used as almost like a landing page to centralize all the information that Verizon is doing behind this holiday, which really becomes a major holiday even in the U.S., crossover into the so-called general market. And besides those, we had social media support doing so. The social media piece is really a strategy to amplify the online traffic. So we kind of just create a bigger community with all these tactics, bring traffic onto the Verizon sites, and then redirect them into our, the sales channel. That's, at the end, marketing is about sales. So that's how we did it, and the result was great. We had a rocket results compared to last year, just because not only all these strategy, but at the same time we address a certain needs the community need. There were a lot of research done for this campaign just to uncover what is that nugget that can really lift the consumer's interest to Verizon. And when we really tap into the Asian consumers, we found out that the Chinese and Korean, there are certain groups that they don't know Verizon has global capability devices. So we use that as a product to integrate it into our marketing campaign. So from all that effort, we saw a big lift on the device take rate, just because of that insights we gathered from our studies. And we were able to integrate that into our campaign.
I think Alice is being very modest, because if you look at the total market for Verizon, it also includes public relations, because Verizon Wireless actually is doing things to reach millennials. They're doing things to reach second-generation Asian Americans that probably are English dominant. They've created a news center just for Chinese and Koreans. They are working with YouTube celebrities like Jason Chen. They're also working with K-pop celebrities like Jay Park. So not only are they reaching the in-language folks that are recent immigrants, they're also looking ahead and reaching that second and third generation. So I think that's also a form of total market.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Bill, when you when you hear these stories, right, Mark with that insight around gifting, right, helping move cases, Alice with the with the story about embracing the holiday and having a really integrated marketing campaign that not only relates to Asian Americans but also people in other countries as well, right, that have a connection. What are, again, come back to that point that you were making earlier about we don't see as much uptake, we don't see a broad set of companies adopting, and focusing on Asian Americans yet. What are the big hurdles that you identify around, what's keeping people from doing that, and how can they be overcome?
Fear.
Yeah.
They're basically afraid of us. Part of it is, there's Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, Filipinos, Vietnamese.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's very daunting for a company to say, I want to target Asian Americans, where do I start? So often the smart companies start with one or two and build cultural competency. Or they try to do a cookie cutter approach and say, okay, well, we're doing really well in the Latino market, the African American market, gays and lesbians, let's kind of put everybody in the same boat. But I have to say, although I think a lot of companies have moved to total market approach, I've seen companies go back to segmented marketing. Walmart was going to total market. It's now back to segmented marketing. Coca-Cola was moving in that direction and has now moved back to segmented marketing. Why? Because Asian Americans now have pride. I mean, we used to be afraid to say, I'm Asian American, I'm proud of who I am. Now we're cool. Now we're hip. Now we're doing a lot of things that you wouldn't normally see Asian Americans do. I mean, just an example, 4 out of the top 20 YouTube celebrities are Asian American. We're not talking thousands of followers, we're talking millions of followers. We're graduating a lot of people, we're getting into white-collar jobs, we're doing a lot of great things in music, entertainment, food, and culture. So I think that there's this real interest in being Asian American. And I do think that Asian Americans, now more than ever, want to be spoken to in a culturally relevant way. So it's not just about mass market anymore, about the total market. It's about recognize who we are, recognize our spending power, recognize that there are cultural nuances even to gift giving. And I will tell you, Godiva just entered the market. Now, Godiva has chocolates. They introduced mooncakes. Now, if anybody knows what a mooncake is, I hate mooncakes. They're like hockey pucks.
Terrible.
And when you see them, they're filled with caloric things like egg yolks and lotus paste. But Godiva
That's the
came
good
up with
stuff,
that.
though.
Yeah, one, you can eat one, and the rest of them you're trying to give away because we're really good at re-gifting, by the way.
Right.
I got mine back from last year. But I do think that, you know, Godiva said, hey, we have chocolates. Let's come up with a chocolate mooncake. And it sold like crazy in China, in Hong Kong. They decided to introduce it here.
Yeah.
And guess what? It was a runaway success because they focused not only on the gift giving, as Mark was talking about, but they focused on the importance of this gift and being just a tad different. So the nuance is we're recognizing Chinese because of mooncakes, but we're also adding a little different twist because you Asian Americans are a little bit different than everybody else. And it sold like crazy. So I do think that a little bit of both is important. Cultural relevancy and nuance, also a little bit more approach toward lifestyle.
Yeah, Mark, you had a point that you wanted to make.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's critical, I think the people that are doing it well have identified is that when we sit down to begin planning in the beginning, the total market approach really is just that. You look at everything and you invite everyone to the table at the beginning of the planning session.
Exactly.
You know, it used to be that you did your general market plan, and then that ate up $999,000, and then you only had a dollar left to do your multicultural plan. And that dollar you had to split up between
We'll take it.
LGBT, you know, you had to fight for the crumbs that were left on the table. And usually the people that got left out are the most opportune in terms of cost-efficient ways to reach, return on investment, over-index against consumption and purchase habits, but because of the fear and the ignorance, we're really relegated to the side. Those days are over. Between our good thing that the internet, social media, and a tremendous amount of the work that companies like Nielsen is doing, people are opening their eyes. And if you're a marketer today, you are hard-pressed to make a number, particularly if you are a public traded company. We got to make a number every quarter. All right? I'm looking for the best opportunity of who's going to help me make that number. And that's where total market comes in. It's not about them, and no, it's like, where's the best collective opportunity? We've got brands that are 100% multicultural. 100% multicultural. Why? Because that is the best opportunity to drive those sales against that particular brand and category. That didn't happen 5, 6 years ago. All right, the veil is off, and that's a very important point. You have to do this up front. You got to do heavy lifting. You got to do it as part of marketing 101, not as siloed, not, oh yeah, we'll let them do their stuff over there, and then when we got a few shekels left over, you got to really, really take the rigor that you would against your normal marketing plans and apply them accordingly.
Mark, we need more people like you. If we had approach in total market, the only way total market will succeed is if there are evangelists like Mark that understands that African Americans, Latinos, Asian Americans, Native Americans, gays and lesbians are part of a critical market that all brands should address. but we don't have enough people like you in major corporations, or people like Alice, just as an example. And typically, we get left behind as Asian Americans because there isn't an advocate like you or Kamika over at Verizon Wireless or other companies advocating for us. So ultimately, when the budgets get decided and there is no Asian American or an evangelist like you at the company, that's when the Asian American market gets shortchanged.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time talking about marketers, media buyers, right, needing to plan appropriately, look at that total opportunity, and then figure out the right ways to go after it. What we haven't spent time on, and it's partially because we don't have a publisher up here, a media seller, to speak to their case, right? But Karthik, we work with some of the biggest media companies in the world, and specifically, if you take a look at Univision or Telemundo, right, part of their pitch is, hey, we're the go-to place for Hispanics, right? We can help you reach them better than anybody else. We're aggregating those audiences. To my knowledge, there's not sort of a media company that's taking that stance, at least in the U.S., in terms of, hey, we're the go-to place to reach Asian Americans. I wonder if do you think that's something that's held back this thing? Because there can be all this enthusiasm, right, from marketers, but if they don't have an efficient place to go to kind of go after Asian Americans, it could be a pretty big challenge.
So just to add a couple of points that Bill made as well, like one of the theories is that doing this right is very expensive, and there's some truth to that, but it's not all true, because part of the challenge here is this is an opportunity for creativity, like the story you heard from Alice, right? What exactly Diageo did, it's a little bit more marketer creativity, it's a lot more work, may not necessarily be more expensive, right? And so I think the question today is less about, do we need to have one place where we can reach everybody? It's a little bit more of, guess what? YouTube it gives us the opportunity to do many different things, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that is the single destination. And by the way, it's not catered to one sort of consumer or audience. It caters to a whole bunch of them, right? So to me, the question is like, yeah, it may have been a useful concept, but even then it would have been really hard, because Asian American by definition is Indian and Chinese and Korean, and you're never going to have any one channel the size of that, at least in North America. But I think the opportunity here is more about just avoiding that whole step completely and moving on to sort of the next generation of how media consumption is taking place anyway, especially with Asians. We've seen that. They over-index on literally every single measure you can think of in terms of sort of digital, if you will. And I think that to me is the way to leapfrog how you can get mass media at the way they are starting to consume it on a more real-time basis. So.
Got it. Anything anybody wants to add on to that in terms of that point on operationalizing? Like, you have religion, you want to go after Asian Americans, kind of operationalizing that, difficulties there. Anything you guys have learned in trying to launch those campaigns?
You just got to change culture.
Yeah.
And you have to really think about, I think it comes down to dollars and cents, and I'm being very simplistic, but what motivates the folks in the corporate office, in the corner office? Sales. Performance. And where's your next $1 million in sales coming from? Where's your next $5 million in sales? And how are you going to get that? And how are you going to take the basic principles that you have to do that? All right, we're in the business of selling total, beer, wine, and spirits at retailers. And someone came to me today. Lisa, where's Lisa? Lisa presented a proposal to us today, showed me some work of how we were missing an opportunity with some specific Asian-centric retailers. That's a distribution channel that we had not thought about. That's a sales opportunity that we're leaving on the table. That means those are dollars that we have yet to have an opportunity in that particular channel where they are shopping to reach them, to get them to choose me versus someone else. So you have to be creative. You have to roll up your sleeve and apply the basic rigor. And you have to really have passion to go after and get it. We're not doing this for goodwill. This is not a nice thing to do, folks. This is not, hey, wow. Let me send some advertising to the Asian guys. They need somebody to talk to. Yeah, nobody's talking to them. Ooh.
But I do think it's important to be involved in the community. And going back to Verizon, I mean, when the typhoon hit the Philippines, it devastated the Philippines. And Verizon Wireless came in and did, they got Lou Diamond Phillips, a Filipino celebrity, to do a piece to make that emotional connection to the community. I think that's critically important. But I also think it's important for all of us to change the message a little bit. If I were to tell corporate America, Asian Americans represent 6% of the US population and it's very diverse, you'd probably get a yawn. But if I were to tell you that if you put every Asian American on an island today, all 19 million of us, and we became a separate country, we'd be the 18th largest economic power in the world. Now that speaks volumes, because if you look at who's 18th now, it's Turkey. Turkey has 73 million people, and that constitutes the 18th largest economic power in the world. There's only 19 million of us, and we would be the 18th largest economic power. If I were to look at Indians and Chinese in the United States alone, it's bigger than most Western European countries. Indians and Chinese together is larger than the country of Belgium, larger than the country of Portugal, Denmark, Austria, Greece, and a large number of organizations. So I do think that we need to change the conversation, not just about sales, but also about how we talk about our market.
Okay, so we wanted to reserve some time to take questions from the crowd if anybody had questions. I don't know if we have mics that can go around. If not, you can raise your hand and we'll try to repeat the, oh, we do, great. Okay, I think there's one all the way in the back.
Thank you. Thank you, by the way. It's a great panel you guys have. One of the questions I did have was, we're talking a lot about what companies are doing to sort of segment the Asian community. I'd like to hear a bit more about what the Asians themselves are doing in terms of disruptive innovation. Like I know this sort of Korean market that's sort of sprouted up where I live in Westchester, and it's sort of taking, it's sort of bringing in so many more customers, so many more businesses, so many more things. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about what the Asians are doing within the United States that are sort of bringing the economy up, not just what we're targeting as in terms of a market segment.
You said it earlier.
Okay, well, how many of your daughters shop at Forever 21? Started by a Korean American. How many of you eat at places like Yogurtland or Pinkberry? Started by a Korean American. How many of you have gone to Costco and bought a Vizio TV? Started by a Chinese American. How many of you use YouTube? Started by an Indian and a Chinese American. I mean, I can go on. Asian Americans are influencing popular culture. Asian Americans are creating jobs. We own jobs, we own companies 52% above the national average in many communities. There are 1.6 million businesses in our country that are owned by Asian Americans. So I think we're doing our part not only to help our community and lift our community, we're also doing our part to create jobs and to innovate. People come to this country for a reason. It's the land of innovation, and we're seeing that happen each and every day through immigrants. So, but I do think that it's very important that we not hold people back. When people come to this country, we have these sayings that hold people back. And I'm trying to get people to stop saying these sayings. And Asian Americans and other immigrants that are coming from other countries, they don't say these things. So just so you know, you're not allowed to say things like, let's not reinvent the wheel, because if you can come up with a better wheel, believe it or not, you could do something really well with that. And Asian Americans say, okay, I might come up with that better wheel, bigger wheel. Don't say walk the walk or talk the talk. We just don't say that. We don't just walk and talk. We actually do things like feel the street and understand the street and understand culture. So you're seeing a lot more things that are being innovated by Asian Americans all around the country, and I think that you're seeing that just by the businesses and organizations that we're creating.
Great. Another question? Yep.
Hi, I'm Brandon Clementos, and I head up analytics at Undertone Networks, Display Ad Network. I'm actually, Mark, meeting with your team at Kara tomorrow. But for the panel, so Hispanic Americans have been a really hot topic, at least at Undertone, kind of in the industry. Why do you think that's kind of got so much buzz and not Asian Americans?
Somebody want to take that?
Okay, so let's go back in history, and I'll do this real quick. So 25, 30 years ago, who was hot? It was all about African Americans, right? They were hot. They were leading. That was it. That was the talk. Sports, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then all of a sudden, the census came out. The 2000 census, like, oh my God, Hispanic Americans are now the number one, the fastest growing, et cetera. And all the marketers said,
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
and for the last 20 years, that's been the discussion. All right, it is now catching up. It is now catching up. All right, the conversation is now starting to happen as we're starting to see the business impact, the economic impact, all right, the sales impact, the
Political
consumerism,
impact.
the political impact. All right, as the diaspora changes, and it changes the fabric of the country, of the world, of the economy, people are forced to take notice. Not voluntarily. Sometimes some people are, but I'm going to say most people are forced to take notice because that's where the dollars are. Smart marketers, smart business people, politicians, whoever, follow the money and follow the influence. All right? Republicans, boy, if I was a Republican, I could make a boatload of money because they have yet to figure it out. Smacking them in the face every day. All right? They have yet to figure it out. A boatload of people who are sitting there saying, you don't care about me? I'm not relevant to your life? I'm not relevant to your lifestyle? Either I'll vote for this guy over here or I won't vote at all. I mean, so what you're seeing now is that the Asian, quote unquote, mystery has been demystified. And people are seeing the opportunities, whether it's Chinese, Korean, Filipino, Korean, Indian, you name it, all right? The veil has come off. They are consumers. They spend money, green money, all right? So as a result, we're starting to see sales increases in places where, I say, who's buying that stuff in Camden, New Jersey? Who's buying that stuff over in Okefenokee, where we couldn't sell anything in the last 30 years? I was down in Atlanta recently, and I had a retailer say to me, you know what? I had to change my entire shopping grid the last 10 years. Why? Because 20 years ago, my audience was 80% white, 5% Hispanic, and the rest was African American. Today, it's 25% African American, 30% Hispanic, and oh, by the way, I've got these Chinese guys coming and asking me about bok choy. I don't know a damn thing about bok choy. He's got to go out and find bok choy. He's got to learn. His customer has changed. And if he wants to stay in business, he will change or he will go away. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I can't buy fresh flowers in my neighborhood unless I'm talking to somebody Asian. Korean Grocers Association.
Maybe Dominican.
The Asian, well, in my neighborhood, it's either Indian or Koreans. They got it locked down. The freshest bread, the freshest fish, the freshest flowers. That's what I want. That's where I go. That's where I spend my money.
I just want to say one thing about Latinos. If you were to put every Latino in Latin America, Central America, and even, we'll include Spain, it'd be about 750 million. Indians alone, we're talking 1.3 billion people. Chinese, 1.1, 1.2 billion people. Both of those communities eclipse the Latino community. And I'm not saying we shouldn't target Latinos, of course we should. But I would put my money behind Indians and Chinese.
But it was easy, because it was the language. Okay, the shift was what? The language. Why do I need a specialized media group or agency over here? Because, if you're a Caucasian and you live in Greenwich, Connecticut, you don't speak Spanish, you're in deep shit. I don't know how to talk to them. We got to go out and get experts. We got Univision is where I got to go, Telemundo. It was easy. Language was the universal change agent. That's not the case anymore. So even in our Hispanic world, the dynamic has changed. The second generation, the acculturated, et cetera, language is not necessarily the most common denominator or the most important issue. Same with Asian Americans. It's just now the curve for Asian Americans in terms of knowledge, awareness, and understanding is now starting to swing the other way. And as it begins to continue to unveil, they will become more and more important. You'll find more and more experts. You'll find more and more companies targeting them. You'll understand the opportunity. Somebody pays $10,000 for a bottle of Johnny Walker. $10,000. $1,000 US for one bottle of high-end Johnny Walker in Shanghai. You don't think I want to talk to him versus the guy that's spending $6 over here? That's the consumer I want to talk to. And as we continue to be more unveiled, we will be more and more savvy. We will find ways to invite them to our party and vice versa.
Cool. All right, I think we have time for one or two more questions. Jed over there.
Okay.
Oh, okay, we'll start there and then we'll hit you,
Thank you guys for taking
Jed.
out the time. My question is, the kids who grow up here, they are Asians, Indians, but if they have spent 2 decades here, they don't have color. How does it change the formula? How does it impact your strategy?
I'm not sure if I understand.
Sorry, can you repeat that last line again?
Yeah, basically, the kids who are grow up here, like they went to schooling here in the U.S., they went to college here in the U.S., they don't have color. I mean, they don't have the same cultural inclination like the people who immigrated here. How does your strategy change for those kind of people?
So how do you guys think about, I guess, reaching across generations, and as some of these groups start to acculturate, they lose some of the things that you may traditionally tie to groups that have just come over from a language perspective, from a cultural perspective. How do you guys think about trying to market to sort of Asian Americans as that changes? And Mark, I think you just hit this, or Bill, you might have just hit this a little while ago in terms of Latinos, right? And the groups have acculturated. How do you guys think about keeping up with that change? And anybody in the panel?
Okay.
I've talked a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Alice or Karthik, do you?
Sure. We do target the second generation, like Bill was pointing out before, that we use certain program to reach the second generation. But we're still kind of keen with the cultural angle, because even second generation, they have the influence from their parents somewhat. Maybe not the full extension of that cultural immersion that the first generation had from their home country, but just by the normal lifestyle with the family, the second generation get influenced on. So like we have certain programs that we use sponsorship to kind of connect with the second generation. Like we use something like K-pop, even though that's that came from Korea, but there is a huge followers in the U.S. and most of them are second generation. They kind of carry that entertainment, and was very proud that it's a culture that they have from their parents' home country. So it's a very intricate feeling, and we use that as an emotional connection to kind of speak to and connect with the second generation.
And we're seeing a lot of influence from the African American community, the Latino community, in the Asian American community. So we do play in on that. So if you look at K-pop, it has its roots in hip hop and rap and reggaeton. So we're borrowing from other cultures as well. So recognizing that, we do go to K-pop and C-pop and J-pop and look at those intersections. But I will tell you, even if you're an Asian American kid growing up in a very multicultural world, most of those Asian American kids run home so they can get a home-cooked meal. Or when they're traveling, they always have to have rice. I don't care where they go, they want to eat something, even if they have to go to a fast food place that reminds them of home. So we grab onto that lifestyle interest in those intersections and focus in on those as we market to younger people.
Yeah, I just don't think the orientation towards education, the orientation towards technology, those things I don't think fundamentally change just because somebody grows up and out of it. I think some of that is, we've already seen that pattern emerge and pass. It's just still continued. So I don't think there's dramatic fundamental shift in how people are consumers or how they evolve. Of course, how you reach them will differ. That has to be part of how it unfolds. But I just don't think what drives people as consumers will dramatically change that much.
Okay. Last question, is that? Yep.
Hi, I'm Jed with
Jed.
Omnicom. Thanks very much for the informative presentation. This is for Alice and Mark. I was just wondering if you could comment a little bit on measurement tools. It's a complex market to measure, and I'm just curious if you have new tools you've been using or been able to tweak existing tools to help you understand the market.
So we do have proprietary tools that we utilize. We do secondary tools. So between our, what we call our brand tracking study, which is a proprietary tool that we use internally, those are the things that really begin to allow us to M&E these things across the board. And you brought up an excellent point. So everybody's got their different tools, whether they are segmentation studies or brand tracking measures, et cetera, equity studies, affinity studies, you name them. But you got to be able to M&E this, all right? It is, you know, our gut is one thing, that's great, but you've got to put the measurement rigor in place that you follow when you're able to say. So when I was able to go back to our management and ask for more money, it was because of 280% increase in tracked sales based on our sales tracking metrics, right? If you don't believe in the tracking metrics, the one that we use for everybody, shame on you. So I'll talk to you offline about those, but yeah, there are some proprietary tools and some secondary tools that I think everybody has, but you got to utilize them and you got to build it in up front.
And Alice, did you want to hit
Sure,
that?
yeah. Well, when we structurize our campaign, really based on a 360 integrated marketing approach, so we have various communication touch points, like advertising, whether or not it's online or digital, social media, traditional. So there are ways that we track behind the scene. Like for instance, digital media is the beauty of it is you can immediately get trackable data. We could literally see how visitors came to our website and how many made the clicks and how many actually make the sales on our website. So all those are trackable tools for us. In terms of advertising, the situation with the traditional media, if we're talking about the in-language advertising, is still not audited. So that portion, we can only take a best guess, and implementing a secondary research through the focus group, understanding if the advertising was it really effective. Did they understand our brand? Did they understand our messaging through the advertising campaign? So that's how we do it, even though it's not a hard number we can get from the media, but we can still measure how effective a marketing campaign is.
Nielsen's getting there. IRI is getting there, particularly for Asians. All right, ScanTrack is getting there. I mean, people are starting to understand the need, and as the tools get better, the rigor gets better, we'll be able to continue to document, and we won't be having this conversation 5 years from now.
Right. And in the name of moving cases, definitely pick up the pamphlet that Linda referred to before that links back to the Asian American report as well that we've quoted a few numbers from. It's up at the front desk. Go ahead, Linda. So I'd like to thank our esteemed panel, Bill from the IW Group, Mark from Diageo, Alice from Verizon, and I still don't know who that guy is over there.
Doesn't matter.
Karthik or something from Nielsen. I'd also like to thank our hosts for the evening, the Asian American Association of Timing. Thanks for working with us to pull this together, and thanks to everybody on the team for making this all happen. Thanks to you guys for coming out. Appreciate it, and I hope it was worth it.
Thank you.